In this video, we are going to cover funnels, what a funnel is, the core components of a funnel, some of the settings that you need to make sure that you go through and check, and the way to edit those funnels. If you are building a funnel from scratch, ultimately the process is going to be very, very similar, but we will cover that in another video. So if you are in my programs or you have purchased my snapshots, you are already going to have funnels inside of your account. What that means is you are simply going to be editing as opposed to building from scratch, which will expedite the process at least by 75%, if not more, depending on the snapshot that you got and what it is you're intending to do. So right now we are looking at a sales funnel for my live event. This sales funnel is not fully live. A few pages of it are live, but this is something that I'm actively working to finish right now. So, core components of a sales funnel. Okay, number one, we've got the name. This is the name that you're going to see in the funnels section. Make sure that you name your funnels appropriately so it's very easy to find them when you're looking in your account moving forward. Now we have several different tabs at the top of our primary funnel name. So we have steps, which we can see over here on the left-hand side. We have stats, which is going to show you how those different pages are converting. We have sales, which will show you any transactions that are happening through that funnel if this is a direct checkout funnel. And then we have settings. So if we go over here to settings, there's a couple of things to know. The first thing is the domain. We need to make sure that we have the correct domain associated with this funnel. That domain being linked is how we actually get these URLs at the top of the funnel. So if you have a funnel that you've imported or even a funnel that you've built from scratch, you're not going to see this URL bar at the top of each page. And that's because it doesn't actually have a URL yet. This funnel is not live. So in order to do that, you go over to settings, you click the drop down and you select the domain. If you have not added a domain, it's going to say add domain here. That is done in the settings, which you can access from the bottom left under the domains tab. And there is a separate video for how to add your domains. But this is really crucial. So we do have a path. That path is not really very essential because we're going to have individual URLs for every page. That is typically always what I use. I never really use this path. Then we've got our head tracking code. So in this head tracking code, we want to have things like our pixel base code, our Google Analytics tracking code for Google Ads and organic traffic, and any other tracking codes you might have. So for me personally, I use Hyros as additional tracking for my campaigns. And so we have our Hyros tracking code in there as well. So we can see that payment mode is live. If you are taking payments, you need to make sure that that is turned on. The chat widget, we can decide, is this going to be enabled or disabled on this funnel? Some funnels, I have it enabled. Other funnels, I have it disabled. Our favicon URL. This is the little icon that shows up in the tab when somebody is on that URL. So I already have a favicon that's been uploaded to my media library. What I'm going to do is just go to my media library, grab the URL of that already uploaded favicon and paste it here. However, this can also work if you have a favicon uploaded in another site, like maybe your WordPress media library. So as long as you have an active URL, you're going to be able to drop that in. These are very, very small icons. So the dimensions for that is 16 pixels by 16 pixels. So if you need to create one, go into Canva, set up a design that is 16 pixels by 16 pixels, throw your logo in it, export it, and you're going to be good to go. I do recommend a transparent background. Otherwise, you're going to have a white box around that logo. So those are the core things that we're looking at on the sales or on the settings tab. Sales, we're not going to worry about because I'm not taking payments yet through this funnel. If you are, you're going to be able to see the sales that have come through. Stats, again, is going to show you the stats of each page, and then we're going to hop back over to steps. So we have a couple of different pages that are in here. The first thing we're going to look at is our priority list opt-in and our priority list thank you. So these are very simple pages. This is part of the wait list style funnel that I use in a lot of different funnels. And this is to generate interest before you actually launch. So the good news is I've already built a wait list of several hundred people that are interested in this event that I know are interested before I have ever launched it. So I highly recommend utilizing waitlist steps or pages in your funnels to really get maximum impact if this is something that you are doing a live launch for. So now that we're looking at the funnel, there's a couple of different things to know. And if you have been using high level or ClickFunnels in the past, the interface has changed pretty significantly in the last couple of months. So we're going to go through basically where to find things and what are the core components of a funnel itself. So the first thing to know is that these colors, these make a difference. You can see orange, you can see purple, you can see green, you can see blue. All of these colored outlines represent different things. So a green section is a section, okay? All of the other elements have to be built within a section. So that is the very first thing that we need to do, is either have sections or understand how to edit those sections. So anytime we want to edit something specifically, we have to be on the element that we want to edit. So if I click here, I am again highlighted in green. So the only settings I'm going to see are for the section itself. On the right-hand sidebar, we're going to see our general and our advanced tab. For general, we can give this element a name. That would be great if you're using the scroll to function when someone clicks on a button. Then we've got a background color, which I am using black. We have a box shadow. Do we want this to have a shadow on it? You can see I added the shadow there. Now we've got no shadow. Do we want this to stick to the top of the page or the bottom of the page on the scroll? So sometimes I'll do that. In this funnel, I am not. And then we could also have a background image here. So I have image selected, but because I've got a background color selected, that takes priority. I also don't have a media URL in here. So again, there is no image, even though this is selected. So you don't really have to worry about this if you've got a background color turned on. If I was going to add a background image, I'm just going to either paste in an existing URL for an image, or I'm going to click on this image upload. I'm going to upload a file, and then I'm going to go from there. So if we hop back over to our page, we also have the option to allow this to take up the entire width. So you can see how that changes the design a little bit whenever I click that on. So in this specific case, I'm not, but in some, I definitely will do that. We also have the width, the border, and the class name. So that's really all I need to worry about for my sections. There's not a crazy amount of settings for the sections, and that's because they really are there to house everything else. Now, the next type of element is a row. Rows are highlighted in blue. And a row is going to have a couple of similar settings to the section, and it's going to have a few different settings. So we have this background color as well. We have our margins and our padding. So that's going to be the spacing inside of the row and outside of the row. Padding is going to be on the inside, margin is going to be on the outside. So that's how you can get the spacing that you're looking for by clicking on these, selecting that padding or that margin. Then we've got this align, so we could say left, we could say right, we could say center. In this case, it is just one row, so it's not really going to change much. We also have that box shadow, that background, and now we actually have a width slider on that. On advanced, we've got very similar things. So again, rows are there not really to be a big design element. They're there to help structure your page. So anytime I want to add a new section, I can click on the plus of the element I want to be selecting, and then I can say, all right, I want a 6-column row, a 4-column row, or a 2-column row. Then I can put my elements inside of it. If I am on section, I have to be on the green, okay, and I have to be able to click on that. So sometimes it's hard to get on that plus button because all these other rows and elements are in front of those. So if I go here to this plus sign, I can see my sections right here. I can drag a new section. Again, you've got full width, wide, medium, and small. We've got our rows, which are going to be those columns. Then we have our individual elements. If you want to save a section, so this is really, really cool, especially if you're building out a funnel that's going to have really similar sections. You're going to hover over the green. This can only be done on the green. And you're going to hit this save button. We are going to give it a name, and it's going to be called ABM logo header on black. We could go ahead and add it to our global sections or our templates. We're going to add it to our templates. I'm going to click save. And now if I want to use that element, not just on this page, but on any page, I'm going to click the plus. I'm going to go into section templates. I have a lot of section templates, and I'm going to go ahead and search for ABM, and this is ABM logo header on black. I could just drag that right in here. You see it gives me that same section. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. So that is how we do our sections. That's how we do our rows, and that is how we can save sections. Now when it comes to elements, again, we can click here and get our elements, or we can be on the orange, which is the color of your elements, and we click on that plus sign. It's going to give us the same bar that opens up. Now, these are the elements we have access to. These are going to be our text-related elements. We've got buttons and forms. Those are very important. You'll use those a lot. You can do blog post or category navigation. So this would only be for a blog page that you're building. We can do image sliders, videos, images, FAQs. We've got custom, so code if you want to have HTML code directly in the page, surveys, calendars, maps, SVG, and reviews. We also have countdown timer related elements, blocks that you can do, social icons, and then order form related elements. So in terms of what you're going to add, it really depends on what type of funnel you're using, what type of page you're trying to set up. So obviously headline, subheadline, and paragraph, and a lot of times bullet list, they're probably going to be used on most every page. Same thing with forms or buttons. It's very likely that every single page will have a form or a button. So forms can be done in pop-ups, which we'll talk about, and a button would be required to do that. In this specific page, I just have my form right here on the page, so I don't need a button. I also have video elements. So this is going to be a headline element. We've got video elements here. So when you click on the individual element, you're going to see on the right-hand side the editing options for that specific element, and they're all going to be a little bit different. We see the margins and padding again. You're going to see that on pretty much every element. Background color, that box shadow, but then we've got video type. So we select the type of video this is, we go ahead and add that URL, or you can actually upload your video directly if you click on the hosted video option. Autoplay can be turned on, but I don't recommend it because that will autoplay on mute. I would rather somebody go ahead and just hit the play button. It can be a little confusing if it autoplays on mute. And then do we want this to be 3/4 width, half width, or full width? So if we say full width, it's going to be the full width of that section. So right here, we've got our purple. Purple is going to be what you see inside of your rows. So the purple is actually the individual row. Then we've got the element. So full width is just going to take up all of the space that that element is essentially allowed to take. Then we've got advanced as well. Most of the time, advanced is just going to be things like this, but there are certain elements where the advanced tab is really, really important. So if you're looking for something to do with an element and you can't find it, click on that advanced tab. This page, again, is relatively simple and straightforward. We've got an image element here. So I'm going to click on that. On the left or on the right-hand side, I see this is an image. I also have those same margins, paddings, and background color. We can align this. So I'm aligning my image. This is where I can click to upload a new image into my media library. It'll also allow you to potentially try and create an image with AI, or I can paste an image URL in there. I also can set the actual width or height or both of this image sizing. So if you do not set anything, let's go ahead and delete that. It is actually going to be the size of the image. And so on some images, they might already be the right size and you don't need to do anything, but on others, you may need to select the pixels wide or pixels tall. You can see that if I just do the width, it's going to be exactly how I want it. But let's say I do the height as well, it stretches my image. So that's why typically just one of those options is going to be the best fit. And then we have this actions tab. So anytime you see the actions tab, it's very important. So what do we want to happen when somebody clicks that image? We could either open pop-up or we could go to a website URL. So if you want to link an image, this is how you're going to do it. And you can see if you want to go to a new tab or not. We also have themes. So this is going to be present on several of the elements and you can decide how you want this to look. So again, this would be a box, black box. So I just want exactly as it is, but there might be times where you do want one of those themes. And then we also have those advanced options where we can do additional borders, shadow, etc. So those are the image options. We have text-based options for your paragraphs, headline, subheadline. Opacity is how transparent something is. So if I do a half fade, it really is becoming very transparent. I don't want to do that, but that is something you might want to do at times. We've got text shadow, so we can put a shadow on that. Letter spacing, okay? This is going to spread out my letters. Sometimes you're going to want to do that. It's really more of a typography thing, the way that type looks to make people feel a certain way. Then we've got our box shadow. This is going to be on the entire box of text. Our font size. What type of font do we want? So we can do content font, headline font, or custom font. If I go to custom font, I'm going to be able to select the font family. But for this, I'm just going to do headline font. Then we can add icons. So if you want to add an icon with your text, you can just do that there. I'm going to remove that. And then we have our color options. This is regular text color, bold text color, italic, etc. So just keep in mind that if you're trying to change a color and it doesn't change, it's likely because it's either bold or italic or underlined, and you need to change that additional option. Then we also have the margins and padding here. And then we also have under advanced, the line height. So this is more appropriate for this headline. So if I go over to advanced and I change my line height, it's going to make that height between the lines a lot more spaced out. And so again, sometimes you're going to want to use that. Sometimes you won't need to. Then we've got this visibility option. So this is really, really important. If we want an element to be present on desktop, but not mobile, or mobile, but not desktop, this is how we're going to do it. If I unclick the desktop icon, we no longer see it here, but I do see it on mobile. So whatever option is selected, that is where it will be present. But now if I hop back over here and I turn that back on, we can see it. So it's very, very important if you are editing a funnel from someone else in particular, that you go to the mobile view and you make sure that all the elements look good there, because sometimes there will be mobile only elements to get those elements to look a certain way on the phone that maybe you don't need to do on desktop. So always check this mobile view, go through and either make those changes in the mobile view, or you could potentially just turn all of them to desktop and mobile if you feel like it doesn't make a difference. So those are the general options. Again, there's going to be a lot of other things that you can add. For the most part, everything you need to do when you click on that element, you're going to see the settings on the right-hand side. You'll go through the general settings, and if you are looking for something you can't find, check out that advanced tab. So this is something that the more you do it, the more you will be familiar with what the options are, and you'll get a lot quicker at editing. So now when I hit the save button, it opens this SEO metadata tab. This is the information that would show up on the preview if somebody found this page through a Google search or a browser search. It's also the information that would be seen if I posted a link on social. So this is that preview. Here's the title of our page. This is the description. This is the image, the social image that I've added right here. And so we want to make sure that our pages don't say template at the top, or they don't say somebody else's contact information or business name if you're using a template that hasn't been fully updated yet. We want to make sure it really reflects what we're doing so that people don't see that and think it looks really weird. So if you want to go to the SEO metadata tab before you save, you're going to find that right here. So all of these tabs at the top, we've already gone through the elements. This is going to be our layers. So if we go in here, we can see the different layers, and you can move things on top of one another, essentially. Then we've got our pop-up, which you're only going to see if you set up that pop-up. So this is set up to show up when someone tries to exit the page. So that's not something you have to have turned on. It's something I do have turned on in this specific funnel page. Then we've got our tracking code. So what you can do is you can put your tracking codes that we talked about for your main funnel settings. You could put them in here. I don't do that because there's no reason to put them on every individual page anymore. As long as we get them in the main settings in the header area of our funnel, it's going to be present across all pages. But if you do need to add something specific just to a single page, you'll do that through tracking code. Custom CSS is for designing things a little bit differently than what we have the drag and drop elements able to do. So if you know CSS, this is where you're going to add it. If you don't know CSS, don't worry about it. One quick tip, if you have done everything you can to edit elements in a certain funnel and you find that those elements are not changing, you know the settings are right, the color's right, the spacing is right, but it doesn't look right, check this custom CSS. Sometimes funnel templates are going to have CSS in them. And so if you don't edit the CSS or remove the CSS, you're not going to be able to change that element in the way that you want to. So now we have typography. This is where we get our headline font and our content font and the default settings that are associated with those. We also have background. So we already talked about section backgrounds and then element backgrounds or row backgrounds. This is a page-wide background. So if I just go ahead and select something and I put it in here, you can see that takes up my entire page. You can also decide how you want this image to be shown. Do you want it to have a fade on it? Do you want there to be a background color on top of that? So all of those things are in the background settings. Very similar to if you are trying to change background and you've done it on the section, but it's still not changing, it's likely because that is a background image or a background color. Then we've got our pop-up settings. So our pop-up settings allow us to build pop-ups. The pop-ups are still going to have those elements on them or those rows on them. So you can see this is just a one single row. Then we've got the headline element, and now I've got the form element. So if I click on this form element, this is really, really important. And this doesn't matter if it's in the pop-up or on the page. So we talked about the actions on the images, but this is an action that's related to a calendar, to a form, or to a survey. So calendars, forms, or surveys should be present on just about every funnel page that you have. And this is critical. So on this button actions, we have 3 different options. We've got go to next step, which is typically set by default, but that may not always be what you want to do. You might have several different pages in a funnel that all need to go to the same thank you page. And if that's the case, you're going to do one of 2 things. You're going to do go to website URL and you put that URL in the URL bar, or you use action from Form Builder. And this action from Form Builder would be set in the settings of the form under the options tab. So just keep that in mind. If your funnel is not flowing the way it's supposed to, this is probably the reason for that. So always, always, always check your button actions for the redirect. We're going to go back and set next step because that is what we're doing. If I click on that element, I can see what is the name of the form that is present here. So if you're trying to edit a form and you're not sure what that form actually is called, click on the form and then look at the name on the right-hand side. Then we've also got that advanced, but there's not very much to do on advanced. If I want to edit this further, I'm going to go to pop-up settings, and now I see that I've got a few additional options. I could do background color, background image or video. I could disable the pop-up if I do not want that to turn on. I could say close pop-up when they click outside of it, or what is the size that I want this pop-up to be. And then where do I want this shown? So we've got none if you don't want to use it. We've got a delay, so I could say 20 seconds after they're on the page, I want the pop-up to come up, or on the exit, which means when they try and click the top of that tab, this is going to pop up. And that's how I have this specific form set up. So those are the general pop-up settings. We've already talked about SEO metadata and then preview custom codes. So again, if this is not something that you are already familiar with, don't even worry about it. It's going to be for custom coding. And then finally, we can just take a look at what 2-column mode would look like or what auto would look like. So we are just going to keep this as it was, and I'm going to hit save. So again, we've got the name of the page right here. We've got desktop view and mobile view. Always, always, always check mobile view. And then we have the preview button. The last thing that we'll do is we will hit save. And if we do not hit publish, those changes will not be live. So this is a newer feature that has been released. In the past, if we saved it, those changes would be immediately live. Now we must hit the publish button if we are going to get those changes live on the screen. So if you're ready to make those changes live, go ahead and hit published and you're good to go. Hopefully this was a very easy to understand, effective tutorial Always keep in mind the most important options and settings for each element is going to be on that right-hand side. And I really hope this helps. I will see you on the next one.